Welcome friends to another r/am I the jerk here video. Today we've got a lot of great stories, and our first story of the day is from Yellow Redundancy. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay for a dress that my bridesmaid ripped in the store? I, 25-year-old female, am getting married. My future husband John has no siblings, one aunt, and only one first cousin, Casey, 23-year-old female, so John asked me to include her in the wedding. I told all three bridesmaids that I'd pay for their dresses. At the appointment, the girls picked a few dresses from the display models up front. The sales associate explained that she would go to the back and pull the ready-to-try dresses, and that going up 1 to 2 sizes is normal for formal wear. The plan was for them to head into the changing area, and when they all had a dress on, they'd come out as a group to show me. John's mother and aunt, Casey's mother, pulled me to look at the bridal accessories. So this part is secondhand for my bridesmaids. The associate brought dresses into the dressing area, and Casey was irritated that she fell into the plus line, which started at size 18, both on principle and because 2 of the dresses apparently weren't available in plus size to try on. She argued and refused to try on anything above a 14, but the associate warned her to not go below a 16. Casey has always squeezed herself into tight-fitting clothes and is very focused on, in her words, unfair and misleading sizing between brands, refusing to see that in reality she's about a size 18 or 20, so 22 to 24 in formal wear. While I was on the other side of the store, I saw Casey quickly walk out and grab a dress off a mannequin, but I didn't think too much of it. However, the sales associate pulled me aside and told me that a $250 charge for a dress that ripped would be added to my bill. Since I was taking care of everything, when I went to talk to Casey, I found her struggling to zip a too small dress, and the size 14 dress, the one she grabbed, was hanging up and had burst open at the side. I told Casey politely but firmly that I wasn't going to pay for the damaged dress, and that she would need to cover the cost herself, to which she insisted that it was my job to do it. We went back and forth unproductively as John's mother and aunt had come back over, and one of the other bridesmaids told me that the sales associate had strongly cautioned against trying smaller dresses. Casey attempted to start another argument about sizing, and I cut her off. I told her that there was no way in heck she's a size 14, and I don't care if she believes it out in the real world, but for the purposes of this trip and my wedding, I needed her to accept that. Casey angrily went back into her dressing room and refused to come out. And her mother told me to just pay the $250 since Casey was still an apprentice at the hair salon and didn't make that much money. My bridesmaids backed me up, but Casey's aunt, and to a certain extent John's mother, essentially said that Casey wouldn't be there around these dresses in the first place if it wasn't for me. Casey's mom ultimately paid for the damaged dress. But am I the jerk? I think OP's not the jerk here. I think it's pretty clear that this person is just living in denial. And despite being very honestly warned, they neglected everything and they ruined these dresses. Or, well, didn't ruin, but they ripped them. Would you guys agree with me when I say that if you're offering to buy something for somebody out of the goodwill of your heart, that there's literally no situation where somebody goes and adds $250 extra to that bill and expects you to just cover it like it's no issue? Let me know if you agree with that notion in the comments down below. Our next story is from Throwaway Batch. Am I the jerk for having high expectations for my bachelorette party? I, 25-year-old female, am getting married to my wonderful fiancé, 31-year-old male, this fall. A week ago, I had a bachelorette party. While most girls dream of their weddings, I dreamt about my bachelorette weekend. I put a lot of planning into this weekend, made a lot of phone calls, reservations, everything basically. For Thursday night to Sunday morning, me and 25 of my closest girlfriends rented a house. From the start, it was a disaster. I had told my girls to get to the house early on Thursday so they could decorate and set up before I got there. Well, I got to the house at 3 and they weren't done decorating, so that bummed me out because I wanted that wow moment. When I came in and saw the setup, I felt robbed, but we still had a decent first night. Friday, I woke up at 7 a.m. to make breakfast and get ready because we had a packed day. Vineyards, boat, lunch, happy hour drinks, then dinner in the clubs. I was getting shaded on all afternoon because people said they were being rushed from place to place and had to carry changes of clothes all day, but we only had limited time in the city and I wanted to make the most of it. Saturday was worse. We had brunch at 9 a.m. and no one was awake in time, so it only ended up being me and a few loyal bridesmaids. We went shopping after for a few hours, and when we got back to the house, no one was even apologetic, even though I was close to tears all day. The last straw for me was later that night when we were going to dinner and nobody was wearing the matching shirts we got for the weekend. People wanted to wear their own stuff, but that's not what we agreed on, even though my maid of honor notified everyone. At that point, I said screw it. This weekend was ruined and locked myself in my room to cry. It was even worse when I came out a few hours later and half the girls had gone out anyway. Without me, aka the actual bride. I ended up driving home early on Sunday and left the house a mess for the girls to pick up because I was so upset. Now it's been almost a week. No one's really texted me except some bridesmaids and the maid of honor. I know I sound bridezilla-ish, but these are supposed to be my friends. And we were supposed to celebrate me all weekend, and I felt neglected and I'm just really upset. I understand these expectations may seem like a lot, but I made my expectations clear to the group and they just let me down so bad. Tell me, am I the jerk? I think OP's the jerk here honestly because as much expectation as they try to express, these are 25 adults who had to take time out of their lives to set days aside for OP. And honestly, even like taking a multi-day vacation with a small group of friends, most often ends up having changes in plans or changes in whatever you were expecting. I just find it hard to believe that 25 people really worked well in this one house. And also, 25 people, I don't really consider that to be close friends. If you have 25 close friends, you do a lot of socializing. By the way, if you're enjoying these stories, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons down below so you never miss any of my daily videos. Every video has awesome stories like our next one from K.918. Am I the jerk for exposing my cousin's creepy husband to my entire family? I, 22-year-old female, met my cousin's husband, 24-year-old female and 26-year-old male, last July for their wedding. They live several states away, so in addition to meeting him for the first time, it was also the first time I'd seen my cousin in a few years. I instantly got a bad vibe from him, and he made several comments that rubbed me the wrong way. He told me I seemed like a wild child, and said he would bet I'm a bad girl at my college. Since meeting him, he's followed me on Instagram and sporadically sends me reels, which I don't open, and comments odd things on my posts like, "Looking good, cousin." He even DM'd me once, "Hey, I'll be in your state this weekend on business, ... lol, which I never opened either. All of this definitely creeped me out, but I didn't feel like I could say anything about it because my cousin and I aren't close, and I've always felt like she looks down on me because she's a devout Christian and I'm not. Fast forward to this week, one of those fake accounts on Instagram popped up with some of my pictures, asking for money for X-rated pictures. The bio was in broken English, the pictures were poorly cropped screenshots of my two most recent posts, and the Cash App was random strings of numbers and letters. The account just looked very fake, and many of my friends sent it to me and reported the account. Of course, the one person who apparently fell for it was my cousin's husband. I then got a very long, nasty DM from my cousin telling me that she'd been very tolerant of my sinful lifestyle, whatever that means, but this time I'd gone too far. She said she didn't care that we were family, and so long as I was posing a threat to her marriage, I was no longer welcome in their lives. I calmly and politely responded that this account was not me and that I'd already reported the account to Instagram to be taken down. And I apologized for the apparent disruption to her day. She responded that she didn't believe me and said she pities me for having such low self-esteem and would keep me in her prayers. I lost it at this point. I called her stupid for falling for an account that was so obviously fake, and said that her husband was such a blatant creep it was embarrassing she even married him. I sent screenshots of the months of DMs from him that I never responded to, and concluded by saying, "If your marriage is so easily threatened, get a divorce. Don't take your insecurities out on me." Shortly after, I got an angry phone call from my mom and my grandma saying my cousin made an honest mistake, and that my response was cruel and unjustified. Apparently, my cousin showed everyone our messages and is humiliated by what I said. My mom's worried our relationship with that side of the family is permanently damaged, and now I may or may not be welcome at future family gatherings because my grandma doesn't want the drama. I really don't feel like my response was out of line, but since no one else agrees with me, I'm not sure. So, am I the jerk? I think OP's definitely not the jerk and not out of line here. Frankly, let's put it down to what it is. This person saying, "I don't believe you, I'll keep you in my prayers," is such a screw you and everything you said that I think it's probably the most normal, rational human reaction to say, okay, fine, if that's how it is, let's just lay all the cards on the table and get it out there. Because you'll be darned if you're the reason that their marriage gets so easily threatened when you didn't even do anything. Literally didn't even do anything. Our next story is from RS Eveldi. Am I the jerk for complimenting my girlfriend by saying that she's a smart girl? I was trying to assemble a desk I bought for 2 hours without success, even after watching videos and reading the instructions multiple times. So I called my girlfriend for help, and she figured where I was messing up in just a few minutes. I know it sounds weird, but honestly I was amazed seeing her trying to figure it and succeeding in a short amount of time. So I told her that she's such an amazing and smart girl. She got up and gave me an upset look. When I asked her what's wrong, she angrily said to never call her a girl again, even as a compliment. Mind you, I'm not a native speaker, so I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. I've heard people refer to young women as girls, and even my girlfriend did that multiple times. There's this girl in my class, I know this girl who blah blah blah. I tried to apologize and told her that she was an amazing and smart woman, but still she didn't accept my apology and said that my compliment wasn't genuine anymore. I think OP's not the jerk here, and honestly I hate that line of thinking, where because you stepped on a landmine that you didn't know was there, all of a sudden your compliment doesn't mean anything and it's not genuine, so it doesn't count. I don't think there's anything wrong with her notion of not being comfortable or being happy being called girl, but I don't think it's ever justified to flip out at somebody who very honestly didn't even mean to put them down and wasn't even saying anything that was meant to be a put down. She might feel it's condescending, but you never meant it to be. If anything, I feel like they should have said, "Thank you, I appreciate that, but also I don't really like the term girl." And both sides I think would have been more than happy. Our next story is from 3throw5w6oa. Am I the jerk for refusing my wife water? I know the title sounds bad, but hear me out. My wife, 29-year-old female, had a strange preference in water. She always drinks unflavored seltzer water, but instead of just drinking it normally, she opens the can first and then waits for all the bubbles to fizz out before drinking any of them. It's just such a waste since she's essentially drinking regular water at this point, but for such a higher price. My wife always argues that it just tastes fresher and crisper after being left out opened. I normally do the grocery shopping, and last week when I went, I did not buy any seltzer. When I got home, my wife asked where the seltzer was. She'd added it to the shopping list. When I explained that I hadn't bought any, she immediately went red in the face but didn't really say anything. Later that day, I went to the gym, and when I got back, our kitchen was decked out with seltzer cans. I could barely open the pantry because there were so many packs of seltzer. There were at least 25 boxes worth. My wife smugly told me that she had taken several trips to the grocery store because one trip wasn't enough to fit all the seltzer in her car now that she knew I was trying to cut her off. She told her family about this, and they're all calling me a jerk, saying I'm depriving my wife of a basic need. I'm gonna say both sides are jerks here, and this seems like a very unhealthy relationship. I think just about everybody has their own personal quirks as far as what they like to eat or drink. I can't say I tried her technique, it might taste different, but the fact of the matter is she really likes it. It's literally her preference, so for you to go and say, "Oh, that's a waste, I'm not buying that," unless it's literally breaking the bank, I think that alone is a huge jerk move, and very controlling and very unhealthy. Now, for her to go out and just blast the pantry full of cans, that's also a jerk move, and a bit overreactive, and a bit unhealthy, and overall, I think there just needs to be some kind of common ground communication discussed here. This next story is from Content Profession 63. Am I the jerk for refusing to buy my fiancé a gaming laptop for a few grand after he told me to find a real job? My fiancé, male 37, and I, female 30, have started living together 6 months ago. I own a house and he moved in with me. I run an online business from home, which allows me to live rather comfortably. A month after moving in, he quit his job saying how much he hated it and that he's going to try and do Twitch streaming for a living. I'm all for following your passion. So I was supportive, although surprised at the turn of events. I'm in a financial position to support us both, but it felt off. Anyway, nothing happened with his Twitch channel. Sure, he's gaming all day, but hasn't bothered to even try and create an account. He just games for pleasure. It's been 7 months. I've had conversations with him suggesting he finds work, but he keeps telling me that I'm unsupportive and he needs time. He wanted us to buy a bigger house together, but I said that I'm fine with my current one, and that since he doesn't have a job, I don't want to get a mortgage and be left with paying everything. And he told me if I found a real job, maybe I wouldn't have financial problems. We had a massive argument that night. Now he's been hinting at needing a new gaming laptop, which costs a few grand. And I've been ignoring it, so he asked outright for me to buy it for his birthday. I told him no, that my fake job doesn't cover new laptops. And he got really pissed at me, telling me I'm selfish and ruining his career. Granted, I can't afford to buy it, but he really hurt me saying my business is not a real job, despite me working my butt off. Am I the jerk for not buying him a new laptop? I think OP's not the jerk here, and I think this guy is just doing the runaround. I mean, this guy has not put any time into trying to create a roadmap for improving their streaming setup. A good gaming laptop's great, but they haven't talked about, a webcam, a microphone, maybe a green screen. If they haven't even created a channel, that's like the bare minimum, Like what? I also really love the idea of doing gaming streaming, but man, is it such a hard thing to actually dive into? To me, there's something about game streaming where it's like, if I don't do it at least 3+ times a week for a good amount of hours at a consistent time in the week, basically make it a consistent part-time or maybe even full-time if you go full-on in job, it feels like it would be pretty hard to cultivate an audience otherwise. Honestly, I think if OP sticks around with this guy, they gotta start setting some actual metrics. It shouldn't be OP's job to babysit them, but they should have a channel, they should actually have streamed for X amount of hours, they should actually have gotten, a follower, let's start seeing some actual progress from this guy before you go buy him a gaming laptop. This next story is from CatGirl349. Am I the jerk for telling my dad he needs to control his other daughters better, or I'll move in with another family member? So I, female 15, have been living with my dad, male 36, full time after my mom passed away almost a year ago. He's married to my stepmom, female 34, and has 2 daughters with her, female 8. My little sisters are the classic little sisters who want to be like their big sister. They're also very nosy and constantly touching stuff in my room. It can be pretty annoying. Yesterday, I was at my grandparents' on my mom's side for most of the day. I came home to see a snow globe broken on the floor in my room. Context, all my snow globes are on the top shelf of my bookshelf, which I can reach, but not without a chair to make sure I'm careful and not break anything. So 2 8-year-olds can't reach it properly. I noticed it was one of my mom's snow globes that she had had since high school and gave to me when I was a kid. I almost started crying when I saw it broke. I ran downstairs to my dad and stepmom, asking why one of my snow globes was broken on the ground in my room. My sisters admitted to climbing the bookshelf, trying to play with my snow globes. I was so upset I lost it and told my dad and stepmom they need to teach them to not mess with my things. My stepmom tried saying it's just a snow globe and I need to relax. I told her it was one of my mom's from when she was young and that her daughters should have waited until I got home. I would have gladly have gotten my snow globes for them to play with for a little bit, but instead, they had to be impatient, and now one that was very special to me is broken. My dad's head was down. I then said, "Dad, honestly, I'm very tired of them constantly messing with my stuff. They know not to do this, but they still do it. I've been very patient, but if this keeps happening, I might have to move in with my grandparents or something." Before my dad could say anything, my stepmom said I'm taking things too far and I'm acting like a brat. My dad later apologized and said he'll try to work on having the girls go in my room and mess with his stuff whenever they please. I could tell he was upset by what I said. My stepmom keeps acting like I'm the bad person in the situation. I don't want stuff like this to keep happening, otherwise I would rather want to live with my grandparents. So, am I the jerk? I think OP's not the jerk. Everybody deserves the right for their stuff to be respected. And honestly, I feel bad for OP and I feel bad for the dad because I'm not gonna lie, it seems like the stepmom is very controlling, very bold, very brash, very opinionated, and biased. Somebody at some point needs to hold the kids accountable or else they're going to just grow up totally spoiled and totally rotten. If they're not already there, they're probably reaching the point of no return. Our next story is from Snoot Oot. Am I the jerk for having a vegetarian menu at my wedding? Me, 30-year-old female, and my partner, 30-year-old male, are getting married next September and are in the early stages of planning. We've been vegetarian for a while now and would like to incorporate this into our day so we can eat everything on offer. We met with caterers yesterday and created a menu that includes loads of delicious food that we love and will enjoy. Nothing unusual and have 2 choices for each course. My family especially seems outraged at the prospect of no meat being included and are arguing that we need to think about what our guests want. I feel like I've lived on sides at restaurants many times, and I should be allowed to have one day where I can eat food I enjoy and others can too. I've said that people can have a bacon sarnie before the wedding if it's that big of a deal, and it won't harm anyone to go for one meal without meat. I feel like I'm going to be arguing about this with my family for the next 12 months. Am I the jerk? I think OP's not the jerk here. I think everybody has the right to have a wedding that they see fit. And in my opinion, all these people that are showing up should just be grateful that they're getting served food. And honestly, it does annoy me that they're so close-minded that they're not even willing to entertain the idea of eating a vegetarian course. I'm personally not a vegetarian. I do eat a lot of meat, but I would love to take a try at this vegetarian menu at this wedding. I see no issue with that. They're probably just upset because their only concept of vegetarian is wilted lettuce and broccoli with a dollop of blue cheese dressing. Our next story is from Throwaway Little Boy 22. Am I the jerk for calling an intern at my husband's work a little boy? I'm a 32-year-old female. My husband, 38-year-old male, is high enough in the company that he works at that he has his own secretary and staff. It's common for me to show up at the office to drop stuff off or go get lunch with him. Recently, I've noticed a new intern, Jack, 22-year-old male. I personally think he doesn't like me, but that didn't bother me until today. I went to go drop off some papers for my husband today. It was supposed to be a quick in and out. I have his schedule, so I knew he wasn't in a meeting or anything. In fact, it was his hour lunch break. So I go up to the secretary desk and Jack's sitting there. No big deal, I bet he was being trained or just covering for today. I tell him I have some papers to drop off that he left at home. Jack looks at me and says he can take them. I tell him I have to give them to my husband personally since they're important. He tells me no. I give him a look and say it's his lunch break, he's not busy. Jack then tells me to sit down, girl. I was shocked and asked what he said. Same thing, sit down, girl. My temper is thin at this point, and I called him a little boy that thinks he has power since he's sitting at the front desk when he isn't even a full-time employee. He looked shocked and got all red. I then go in the back, knock on the office door, and there my husband is doing nothing. I leave and Jack wasn't looking at me. I told the story to my friend, and she told me he was just doing his job, and I was a jerk. So, am I the jerk? I don't want to bring it up to my husband. He can get protective at times. I think OP's definitely not the jerk, and I sure hope Jack was being trained because they did an awful job. What person working a front desk or a secretary desk says, "Sit down, girl"? This isn't some child walking up to their angry principal's desk. Jack seems super full of himself. Our next story is from Divide and Conqueror. Am I the jerk for not making my kids do chores with my stepdaughter? When my wife and I got engaged, we agreed we needed consistent rules for our household for all 3 kids. My 11-year-old female and 6-year-old male, and her 9-year-old female. We each changed some of our rules to create a fair compromise. Most of my rules were stricter than hers, so many of my rules got chucked and some stuff was added to hers. We were in full agreement when we all moved in together. One rule it was hard for my stepdaughter to adjust to was chores. My kids have been doing them most of their lives. They clean their own rooms and work together to clean their shared bathroom. They help cook dinner, and they each have one night a week where they have to sweep and take out the trash. My kids complain to me that stepdaughter hates cleaning the bathroom and always cleans really slow, forcing my kids to either do most of the work or be in there forever. I decided that was unfair. I told my daughter she was responsible for cleaning the toilet and tub. My son's responsible for the floor. Stepdaughter has to do the sink and mirror. Once they finish their tasks, they can leave even if she isn't done. Since stepdaughter is a procrastinator, often they're done before she even begins. They'll rush in, clean, and then rush out to do their rooms while she takes her time putting her shoes away and unpacking her book bag. Often they're completely done with their chores by the time she's finished one. Stepdaughter is really upset with this. She says it's unfair. Last night she started bawling because she didn't finish her chores and got no dessert, the agreed upon consequence. My wife says we're being unfair and I should make the kids go back to cleaning the bathroom together so they can teach her and she can improve. But she knows how to wipe down a sink basin and a mirror, she just doesn't want to. I feel like forcing the kids to work together punishes my kids needlessly. Am I the jerk? I think OP's not the jerk here. I think it's pretty clear that OP's stepdaughter is just not used to doing the chores. They're not hustling, they're not motivated, probably when wiping the mirror, circling around slowly wiping the sink off. And let's be real, how many kids does it take to clean a mirror and a sink? To force those kids to stick around is just making them essentially sit there and play moral support. And honestly, that's just not fair to anybody else that went in there, hustled, and got their stuff done. I think you just keep going with these chores, and at some point they'll learn to just get in, get it done, and you'll be happy. In fact, them crying about it like this, and you giving in any kind of concession like forcing the kids to stick around, I think that only stands to encourage them to act out more and complain more. This next story is from Just a Nobody 080. Am I the jerk for dropping my sibling off at my mom's date? For my whole life, I, 20, always have been the live-in babysitter for my mom. I thought that once I moved out, I would no longer have to babysit my sibling, 6, 8, and 10 anymore, but boy was I wrong. As soon as I turned 18, I had gotten married and moved out. I know you all are gonna judge me for that, but I'm happy with my husband. My husband doesn't mind having my younger siblings over as he loves children, but it's gotten absolutely ridiculous. My mom doesn't even ask me before she drops off my siblings. She'll literally just drop my siblings off at my door and leave. She's even done it at our date nights. It's unfair to me and my husband, even though my husband's been accepting this with grace and is really good with my siblings. I'm actually pregnant myself and have been feeling the typical pregnancy symptoms, so my husband's been picking up more of the load of watching them when they are over. I've told my mom many times to stop doing this, as my husband and I have a life of our own and don't want to be watching your children all the time, and to at least let us know before dropping them off. Recently, my mom did this again, and I wasn't having it. I called my mom after she dropped my siblings off and found out where she went, which was on a date at a restaurant, and went there with my siblings. I found where my mom was seated, went up to her with my siblings following me, and said, "Hey mom, I have a few errands to run, so I decided to drop them off with you," and left while my mom was in the middle of objecting. My mom was pissed and ringed my phone down. I didn't answer until the next day. When I did, I got an earful with her telling me that she raised me and went through months of pregnancy. The least I could do is watch my siblings when she needs time off. I told her that she didn't even ask me to watch them, and that I can't accept her dropping them off at my place without even asking me if I'm even available to watch them. She said that we're family, and that I'm supposed to look after them because I'm their older sister, and that I embarrassed her in front of a guy that she really liked. My husband does feel bad at what I did, and feels like there were better ways to deal with my mom than the way I did. Do you all think I was in the wrong here? I definitely think OP was not in the wrong here. I honestly am very surprised that OP and their husband have been this accepting of this for so long. Maybe it's because OP's just kind of grown up with it, so they're really used to that kind of a situation. But like having moved out, married, pregnant, having your own life, I'm sorry, but I would be livid if my parents kept dropping off my 6, 8, and 10-year-old siblings willy-nilly whenever they wanted without any kind of warning ahead of time too. Shoot, I think I'd feel the same way even if it was just one dog that they were dropping off every once in a while. And dogs are way easier to take care of than 6, 8, and 10-year-old kids, and I adore dogs. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another Am I the Jerk Here story that was way crazier than any of the ones in this video, click on that left video. Or, if you missed my latest video, check out the one on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.